Georgia and all these places where we've won much bigger numbers by standing up for these things.
And maybe Chuck Schumer can't convince them to do this, but if he can't convince them to do this, he should have a chalkboard somewhere in his office that says, "I don't have these many votes, and so I'm not going to go." It's like if you don't, if you don't have enough floaties, you don't go into the water with everybody. This is pretty basic stuff.
That's a good point.
And he doesn't seem to be doing either. He can't add and do math. Or his caucus doesn't even communicate with him. I mean, it seems to me at one point people have to start wondering, is Chuck Schumer worth it? They screwed up in December by punting before the tax bill. Even if they had wasted a week and a half on whatever it was, it would have made the tax bill harder to pass. They are empowering Republicans by their sheer incompetence. Right? I mean, because I think his political, where he is policy-wise is probably okay for, a Democrat from New York State, but his leadership ability and his strategic vision seems to be completely absent, totally absent.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I guess they'll have to ask themselves at some point how long it makes sense. I mean, the problem with it is it's, as you know, it's not just based upon leadership. In fact, it may not be based upon that at all. It's based upon how many chits you've collected, who you've raised money for, and all this other garbage that really isn't. It's not about who's the best leader. Because my guess is that you can find a bunch of people that would be doing a better job than this. I would hope so, or we're certainly bereft of leadership. Now, I mean, I don't know. I've never fully been impressed with Schumer when it comes to these kinds of things. So, I try to kind of not make harsh judgments and lay back and give people more time. But so far, not so good. Let's put it that way.
Who would you?
And again,
who do you think would be good in that spot in the Senate?
Elizabeth Warren might. I don't know. I'd have to think about that, but she might. Of course, if she wants to run for president, then that may not be where she'd want to be anyhow.
Right.
But I could see her being a really good majority leader. She's certainly pretty smart, and certainly has been, I mean, in some of the ideas she's come up with, and some of the bringing together sort of a movement, the money she's been able to raise through small donors.
She campaigned for Claire McCaskill in 2016. Where she was McCaskill that she was campaigning for, or was she campaigning with Clinton? I know she was being sent around to red states.
Yeah, she was.
And
I can't remember who it was. It wasn't McCaskill, because McCaskill's up this year. But she was going around into red state races and was very still popular there, because she leads with all the economic messages that are popular in these places. So, that's off the top of my head. I have to sit there.
Merkley also seems like Merkley also strikes me as a guy who has been able to. I mean, he was the only senator who came out and supported Bernie Sanders publicly, but seems to have been able to do that in a way that did not alienate any of the other senators, and maintained relations with the Clinton people. I mean, it's this type of
No, that's a great point.
Awareness that I can do X and will not suffer Y consequences. Seems to be the type of skill set that you want in someone like this. But
no, I think Merkley's another one, and there's some others that would be worth looking at, I think, and thinking about. But maybe it is Merkley, and in his case, at least, he's not somebody who seems to have presidential ambitions. I could be wrong, but I've never heard anything to that regard. So that might make the most sense, because that would be the one thing, if Elizabeth Warren wanted to run for president, that would affect how she'd be majority leader. And I think that there's two different skill sets there.
Yep.
And one would get in the way of the other. So maybe that would be. Merkley actually, I think, could be a great choice. I have to think about who else is out there and who else is kind of has the courage and has stood forward and been willing to kind of lead on a number of these issues. But there's others. I would throw out there someone like Sherrod Brown, but he's up for re-election and has to worry about that.
Right.
'Cause I think he could galvanize a lot of the party too, and seems to have a lot of support. But I think not right now.
All right, well, Cliff, I'll give you another week. Come up with the answer, and
let me see what I can do
and
for
make
you,
it and make it happen. I would like to see Chuck Schumer gone.
I will make it great again.
I think Chuck Schumer has shown he doesn't know what he's doing, and we don't have time for this type of incompetence. I don't care what his politics
Especially
are.
When everything is weighted in your direction.
He's incompetent.
Yeah, it's not about politics.
Well, it's not about his ideology. I mean, when you're the leader of in the Senate or in the House, I mean, I would prefer someone obviously to the left. But at the end of the day, I want you to be able to count.
From Wall Street.
I want you to be able to count and know, what fights you should be fighting, what fights you can fight, and then somebody who will, convince a couple more people. But